Today is a good day because there is so much amazing stuff to get into. Account-wide legendaries, the new AP grind, all the new systems like the new auto chess mission table, legendary rune carving, unlimited Torghast runs and more, so stay tuned till the end because this one is gonna be a doozy.
Hello and welcome to MarcelianOnline. We do class guides and a WoW news show on a weekly basis, and if you're into that, hit that subscribe button and maybe throw a comment.
Because that will help us massively. And you know, it will keep you updated and we can engage in some conversation. And now, on with the show!
Huh? Are they learning from 8.3 or are they learning from 8.3? Alright, let's take it one step at a time. Legendary powers unlocked will be account-wide. What does that mean though? Well, to explain this, we need to actually go over the legendary crafting system, also named rune carving now. A couple of people, not us unfortunately, got access to a private server to test out some of this stuff, one of which is how you will actually craft your legendaries. To craft them, you need a base for the item, which is obtained from the respective professions. Cloth from tailoring, plate from blacksmithing, you know the drill. And 100 of a new currency called Carcerus. The obtaining of this currency is still being discussed and debated as to how rare it will be, how you will recover it. It might not even be this way once the expansion is live, because if you remember 8.3 beta, we had about 4 currencies at one point. Once you have that, you need the legendary power or effect to infuse it. Some of these powers have already been data mined and more will be added. You will be able to obtain them similarly to how essences were obtained, in that there will be a clear path and you know what power specifically you are working towards unlocking. The devs are still playing with ideas, and Ian actually asked on Twitter what we would prefer, giving the example of them being a raid boss drop, which sounds pretty fair as one example. Once they drop in some fashion, they will be account-wide, so you can use on alts, as stated by Ian. That makes getting an alt ready much easier and less grindy. Once you have the power, you go to your local Torghast blacksmith and put it in. The last super cool option is you can choose your secondary stats for your legendary, similar to actual crafting professions in Shadowlands. The secondary stats will not be random anymore. Thank God. This is a major change, and with it comes a question I haven't seen people ask yet. Can you make the same legendary again? This is something that seemingly should be possible with the account-wide mechanic in mind. Say you craft a headpiece with your power X, but you then loot an actual good headpiece epic. So instead, maybe you want to move your legendary to your boots slot and keep the new epic headpiece. If the powers are account-wide, I would imagine it will be possible for you to craft that power X into your boots, giving you the luxury of flexibility and adaptability.
They're sure bagging in some more systems in Shadowlands, and my homie Flame will take you through all of them shortly. But one of them needs its own corner in Marcelian's world, and that is the new AP grind, the new hamster wheel gameplay, the death of all your alts. Hold up! Not really that grim, relax. Of course, we're talking about the Renown system, which, first of all, will be a weekly objective that you can complete by going into the Maw and rescuing Tormented Soul, or just going into the whole world and collecting anima. Ian was quick to mention that this is not an open-ended grind like AP was in Legion and BFA, and they are planning to have catch-up mechanisms implemented right away. No open-ended grind? Catch up right away? Couldn't have said it better myself, Ian. So, after 2 expansions that had you bored out of your mind grinding Artifact and Azerite power, they're finally implementing grinding done right. Yes, it will be yet another progression system within your Covenant, and hey, you'd be totally up for more progression paths when reaching max level, apart from, you know, getting gear and Soulbinds and theme parties with your ventured friends, but only if the rewards are decent and you don't feel obligated to do this 6 hours a day. One of the biggest complaints in both Legion and BFA was from folks that were returning later in the patch cycle or just didn't have the same amount of time available to play. There was always that sense of being way behind, and don't get me wrong, if you're too lazy to join a raid or a couple of M+ dungeons, you should feel behind your peers because you lack better gear. But if it's because of a grindy systems that never stops and puts folks way ahead of you, even if you missed a day or two out of that, then that totally sucks. This also applies to alts, so in that sense, what you're looking at here, it's something that is capped and provides a bunch of stuff ranging from new features for your Soulbinds, new soul mates, or whatever the fuck they're called, cosmetics, and so on. So I mean, as Ian put it, this will be a way to strengthen the relationship you have with your soul-binded hero. Overall, when you look at this, plus the other stuff that was announced at the Shadowlands dev update, you'd see, again, another pile of systems that will need to be ironed out and balanced, but the reality is, and they said this multiple times now, all of these will be available from day one, and all of them will be coming with catch-up mechanisms too. So when comparing them to BFA, you can clearly see that everything will be ready for you, and in case you missed the first months of the new expansion or a new patch, Blizz is committed on helping you out. You could say that,
wait, Marcelian, how do we know they won't be adding even more systems with new patches, like they did in Legion and BFA?
And you're right to say that. However, at least until further notice, Ian did say in an older interview that there will be no more new systems to be added in the patch cycles, but rather additions and tuning to what we will get from the beginning. And that means Covenant abilities, Soulbinds, Legendaries, and Renown. Hey, when there's time to criticize them, you know we go all out. But this is looking pretty solid, and it addresses the exact issues we currently have in BFA with traits, essences, and corruption. So let's give credit where credit is due.
And in today's comment of the day, we have Watafu, and he said,
Marcelian went from "good evening, sir" to "your daughter calls me daddy too." Nice beard.
Who is your daddy?
Do you think we can make a bit about this, man?
I don't know, man. YouTube is gonna have a field day striking this shit down.
This is why it's hard for my mom to accept my line of work, man.
Hey, you know what else is hard for your mom?
You know what?
My dick. Come here, baby. Come here, baby.
More systems! More! If there's anything we learn from the BFA life cycle is that systems on top of systems can create outlandish power spikes, and most of all are cumbersome to grind and get up to par. The devs recognize that, so instead they give us a bunch of systems. Alright, jokes aside, we cannot have a new expansion without new things to do, and we pride ourselves in being smart nerds, so we need smart things to keep us entertained. So let's talk covenants. Besides the known fact that switching covenants is easy but switching back is hard, one not confirmed assumption from an interview is that they are looking at making it a rejoin to your covenant take 1 to 2 weeks kind of thing, but we have things to do in covenants right now. The place where stuff happens is called the Covenant Sanctum, and you can think of this as your class order hall from Legion. Currently on the alpha, yes, beta is next week, only Sinfall, the Venthyr Sanctum, was tested. The Sanctum will present you with a bunch of things to do. Think class, order hall, war campaign, Azurite traits, Nether Crucible, kind of all mashed into one place. Which is a lot of stuff to do, always good, I guess, since, you know, we are paying for the game. And it's also pretty easy to manage since, well, it's all in one place. We touched on Soulbinds last week and a bunch of times before, and now we have a more fleshed out system. Soulbinds will be interchangeable at no cost. You start with 3 of them, and each one has a leniency towards a specific role: DPS, tank, utility so far. You can activate them seemingly from anywhere in the world. You can also customize their talent tree, but you cannot have all the options unlocked, giving you some choices. Super awesome and excited for that. There are the baseline buffs and passives and benefits you get out of each, let's call it, talent slot. And there are also the conduits, which are empty talent slots. The conduits are essentially gem-like mechanics where you can choose what conduit you fit in whatever slot you will select. There are tanky conduits, offensive conduits, and seemingly utility conduits. So far, the conduits seem to be raid boss drops, possibly dungeon drops similar to relics in Legion. Their final design isn't, well, final, but you can swap them in and out. When you replace them, just like gems, they are destroyed, but again, not sure if this will remain in the final version of the game. There is a lot of customization to be done with Soulbinds. You can have a bunch of conduits and reset one Soulbind each time you want to do something else, or have each Soulbind good for a specific spec, or content, PvE or PvP, things like that. You'll also get Mission Table Evolve! The new mobile game comes with its own... Alright, it's still the mission table. You have adventurers this time and you send them on missions. The difference this time is that there's an actual combat taking place and you can choose your adventurers based on their combat prowess and how they will tackle the enemies. Exactly like it sounds. Outside this, it's still accessible through the companion app, so essentially your bathroom times will receive an upgrade. The dev update also touched on specific weekly events you will do with your covenant. The one that was tested was the Venthyr party. This was in contrast with what the Venthyr theme looked like, but I guess maybe not surprising. A formal soiree, or not so formal, where you invite guests and play some minigames to monitor their happiness, which is represented by a bunch of progress bars based on their interests. Some are interested in the entertainment, aka music, some in the cleanliness, aka you gotta pick up shit and clean up the place, some in food, and so on. This whole thing right now is put on what it looks like a 20-minute timer, so it's an activity that you cannot get out of during those 20 minutes. Having a successful party gives you rewards, and depending on what rewards you want, you organize a different type of party, being careful who you invite so they have a good time. Bastion has been told to have some form of boss killing combat where you take over your Soulbind and use their body and abilities to fight, most likely for similar rewards as the Venthyr. The Necrolords will have a build your abomination experiment, and if we keep drawing lines, depending on what bonuses you want, you build a different abomination. While the Night Fae will have a Farmville, grow your soul so they can be reincarnated bonanza. A lot of customization is going into Shadowlands, and it looks like we aren't even done yet. Worth your money or too much? In the comments.
The fun police just retired. No, seriously, we all know by now that when something becomes too much fun, Bliss Police rolls around and yells, "No, you can't have that."
I am a cop, and you will respect my authority.
Not anymore, it seems, as Torghast is dropping any and all key requirements, meaning you can play the fuck out of that tower for as much as you want. And if this isn't them listening to us once again, then I don't know what is. The moment we saw keys needed to enter Torghast, we were like, man, this should have been a free roam, as it's so dynamic and diverse and you can literally lose yourself for hours in there without getting bored. They saw this on alpha and said,
Fuck it, this is degenerate gameplay. Implement key restrictions, kill all that fun.
And the reactions on the forums and Reddit in regards to this were quite colorful. It's like super funny to see how Ian actually announced this, because he always seems like the super calculated type, having a plan B when changing something or reverting, but this time he just went, yeah, we're dropping all key restrictions from Torghast, and well, we'll find a way to balance it out with the rewards, don't worry. I mean, he just literally wanted to let it all out, like, yo guys, play Torghast as much as you want. Let us deal with the repercussions later. On the real though, it's important he said that they will figure out how to rebalance the rewards, because this unlimited access can potentially encourage folks to like grind the tower endlessly if the rewards stay the same. And at first glance, you could be looking at a diminishing return on gear that drops and the amounts of legendary materials needed. But we'll see for sure what it means in a future blog post. I know you're still pondering on what the heck happens with classes, and sure, there is still a lot of work to be done on that department, but you can rest assured that as beta will be dropping next week, a lot more talk on classes will start to happen. But as they did mention, nothing too major overhaulish. Get hyped, boys and girls. We have the beta coming next week, and a lot of you will get in and play with us and test shit out. Yes!
Man, it's actually an exciting time. It definitely looks like it's a closed beta. I thought we might have been skipping the closed beta phase and just going to open beta. But yeah, it's going to be invites. Make sure you're tapped into the beta with the opt-in little thingy, you know, from the official website.
On the Shadowlands website, not on the Battle.net account.
Yeah, exactly. Not where Ian said it in the dev update.
But also, they did say that Shadowlands will release in fall 2020, which we already knew that, but let's speculate.
It's a broad term.
Because you were probably expecting a release date too, right? So at least we can speculate. Now, first of all, we will have the pre-patch, and usually pre-patch comes rather close to a month.
3 to 4 weeks away from...
I mean, in Legion it was a bit of a month, and in BFA a month, like full circle. So Ian did say there will be 3 weeks. Now, okay, let's say it will be 3 weeks.
The event will be like 3 weeks before I think it was confirmed. I have 2 potential dates where the expansion could be released, and the most likely one will probably be at the very beginning of December or maybe end of November.
Ooh. So I would also agree with that.
Sorry, that would be the launch of the expansion of the pre-patch.
Yeah, so the pre-patch, that would mean the pre-patch should drop somewhere around, I don't know, maybe beginning of November or somewhere in the first quarter of November, which does make sense because they will need a lot of time to tune out the fuck out of the classes, and they do that as the last thing when, you know, in this whole cycle of beta, alpha testing, whatever. So that should give them enough time, like let's say from September up until the launch of the pre-patch in the beginning of November. And speaking of the pre-patch, they did say that on pre-patch you will have your essences, you will have your traits. Guess what you will not have?
Corruption.
Hell yeah! And fuck those corruptions.
At
this point, yeah. Well, it makes sense, right?
Can you imagine the amount of power people will be losing with that corruption? I'm actually okay with this because I don't want that power gap to be felt as we're going into the Shadowlands. But if it's like before, then it's like give us a month to come and it's like, oh my god, I'm not hitting those toilets anymore. I think it's okay. I don't know how the content will be scaled though, because everything will be squished. So I guess they're factoring the scale, because if you really think about it, the content is scaled with us having corruptions. And take that away, I assume it will all come down to the level squish, so the numbers will be squished as well, and the content will probably be made easier if you still want to farm for whatever reason, Iolotha or something like that.
It's gonna be interesting to see, especially with the level squish, but I say good riddance for corruption. It had its day.
See you never.
Yeah, we have a lot of other stuff to get by in Shadowlands, and the cool thing is, as we said in a lot of on Cooldown episodes, everything we get is going to be available from the get-go. There's no walls put in or stuff that's been delayed for future patches. No, as soon as we get into the expansion, we start leveling from 60 to 60, from 50 to 60. We'll have everything available once we hit max level, which is really different.
Now that's really good, because if you remember, the second iteration of Azerite traits and the essences were systems that were meant to fix issues. Now we're just getting the system that we're actually going to play with. They never planned on having essences initially when they designed BFA. So what we're getting right now is hopefully the only system that we will have to work with. And as they confirm, they will keep building up on top of these systems with new Soulbinds, new legendaries, stuff like that with each patch.
Yeah. Important thing is they're not adding new systems on what already is the system right now. That's like the most coolest thing ever. You know, going outside, WoW with the pins, you can't do that, man. It's a pandemic. You stay in house.
Yeah,
maybe next year, though. Maybe next year.
Stay safe, everybody. Don't go outside.
Stay safe. And you know who else stays super safe? Our Patreons. Thank you very much, guys.
So safe.
for everything that you do. You keep on supporting the content every month. It's been a hell of a ride so far. We keep upgrading stuff around here, making sure we up the quality each and every time. We keep saying about our super secret project that is going to be happening in 2 weeks from now, and you get to see what's that all about.
Excited, and we're also very grateful to our Twitch stream supporters, because we do stream on Twitch 5 days a week, and we have a bunch of subs and follows and gifters and donators and everything. It's a lot humbling. I was gonna say a little bit, but it's actually a lot humbling to have you guys support us so much. We really appreciate it, and it does help us, and everything goes into a good place.
Yes, and also all of our Discord gang. Don't forget about our Discord, folks.
Oh, shit.
You know, that's happening. And with that, let's just close it off like this. You guys have a great weekend. Hope you
Take care,
enjoyed the
everybody.
video.
Stay safe, be smart, and we'll see you in Azeroth.
But
You are